This is an oral history interview conducted for the Witness to War Serving a Nation project at Nauset Regional High School in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. For the sake of this interview, please state your full name and community in which you now reside.
My name is Paul Diangelis, and I live in Harwich, Massachusetts.
Okay. How did you end up on Cape Cod?
I grew up in Falmouth. I was born in Falmouth Hospital in 1966, May 14th. And went through Falmouth Public Schools and graduated in 1984.
What was your childhood like?
It was pretty much like any childhood of most people living here on the Cape. During those years, it seems like the ponds froze over much more often, much more frequently than they do now, and a lot of street hockey, a lot of pond hockey we played, and it was good growing up on the Cape. Definitely.
What sports did you play?
I played hockey. I played baseball. Played, the normal sports that.
Why the military? Why did you choose to go into it?
When I graduated in 1984, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Didn't know that I didn't really want to go to college. I had some thoughts of going to college, but decided to work in some base home building trades. Worked for a builder for a few years, and in 1988, my brother went in the Marine Corps, and I started thinking, maybe I should. He was a younger brother, and I started thinking maybe I should start thinking about doing something like that, and decided to go in 1989, about a year after my brother went in.
Okay. Let's see. What was your friendship like during your service? Like friends you had or made?
The Marine Corps is typically known for its almost a brotherhood, brother and sisterhood. That is, as a Marine, we think we're second to none as far as that goes, and that continues even till today. I'm still in touch with a lot of my Marine Corps buddies, and the friends are deep. It's a deep friendship in the Marine Corps for sure.
Where were you stationed?
I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, California, after boot camp. Boot camp was in Parris Island, South Carolina, Beaufort, South Carolina, and from there I went to there was some other training that took place in Millington, Tennessee. I was when I signed on the dotted line for the Marine Corps. They offered me all kinds of stuff because I scored really high on the ASVAB. Scored high in mechanically, electrically, just a lot of scored high in those areas, and so they offered me all kinds of stuff in the aviation field, and so I went for it, I didn't even need to be convinced at that point. It was. I was stationed at Camp Pendleton from, I'd say I think it was early 1990, and I went overseas immediately. Not immediately, but that summer I think I went to Okinawa and was there in Okinawa when the Gulf War was getting going. They were staging for the Gulf War for Desert Storm. They called it Desert Shield first, and then it turned into Desert Storm. But that's where I was. Okinawa, I went over there three different times during my time at Camp Pendleton, which was only 3 years.
What specifically did you do in Okinawa?
I worked on a plane called the OV-10 Bronco. It was a reconnaissance type plane, and I was at first I was a hydraulics mechanic, and then I transferred into flight line and power plants for that same plane.
Okay. How did you feel? What was it like to get your uniform?
Well, I consider that one of the best uniforms in the armed services. They're all great. The dress uniform, it's a good looking uniform, and I was very proud to put it on, for sure.
What pride did you feel during your service? Did you feel specifically proud of?
I was proud of what I was doing. I was proud to serve my country, and very proud to be in there was a squadron. It was called VMO2, and I was working on these airplanes. I was very proud to be doing that. There was a small group of Marines that worked on these things and flew them. So the Marine Corps is kind of small to begin with, and then even smaller with this group, and so there was a great sense of pride in that unit that I served with.
Describe your happiest memory from the war.
Happiest memory from the war. When all my buddies came home from it. I was stationed in Okinawa at the time when the war was going on, and when we all got back to Camp Pendleton, and when they were all safe coming home, that was my happiest time.
Describe your darkest memory from the war.
I mentioned my brother was in the Marine Corps also. He was sent to Kuwait just after the tanks went in, and that was probably the darkest time, just not knowing, and that uncertainty of that he was in harm's way, and all the other Marines, but first and foremost it was my brother that was there. So
how did you feel being away from your family?
it was hard to be away from family, hard to be out of the United States for a long period of time, but it was always great to come back, and being away just makes you long for home, and you don't really know that that's going to happen. It just happens. It's one of those human things.
How did your family react when you told them you were going to war?
My mom was very worried. My father was too, so I'm from a family of 4. So I have 2 brothers. I'm the oldest of 4, so I have 2 brothers, and of course 2 of us were overseas and during that wartime. So my mom was extremely worried about that. But I think worry is the main thing for family anytime there's war going on. And, even if you don't have a child there, or a loved one there, you there's still that worry.
How did you make friends during your service?
Making friends was really easy because of the fact that we're all together in one barracks, and you eat together, you sleep in the same rooms, and it's a lot like a team. You're on a team. There's a lot of that camaraderie that is. I found it very easy to make friends, and I still have friends all over the country because of it.
Describe the Gulf War.
Gulf War was there was more build-up to it than there was the actual wartime. It took longer to move troops over there and get ready for it, and the uncertainty of it. It was the first one since Vietnam, so a lot of people were very worried. It was going to be a different type of war. Meaning desert compared to jungle warfare, as Vietnam was. So there was, there was I don't know where I was going with that.
Were you ever scared during your military service?
Yeah, those were scary times during that conflict, and other than that, I enjoyed every minute that I was in.
What was the most difficult decision you had to make during your service?
I think the most difficult decision was to. I didn't really know whether I wanted to separate from the service or not. I think if I had picked up another stripe, I may have stayed in. So if I had made it to my rank at the end of my time, I served 6 years, and my rank was corporal, E4, and I think if I had picked up sergeant, I might have considered staying in, and that was one of the hardest decisions to really, because I was really on the edge, what to do at that point. And
what do the different rankings mean in terms of, like, if you had picked up a higher rank, and why that would have made you stay?
I would have had probably more. I would have been in charge of more other Marines, more more leadership. I would have had just it's more money, and as you move along in the ranks, if you're a sergeant, then there's the next is staff sergeant. And because I had been a corporal for so long, it was tough to I guess to make that decision, because I had gained all the points I needed to pick up sergeant, but because my field had closed down, and they were decommissioning the airplane and decommissioning a couple of the squadrons after the Gulf War, and that was primarily the reason why I did not pick up sergeant at that point.
What do you think about your higher authority? What did you think?
Always respect the higher authority, no matter what.
What did you do in your off time?
Let's see. A couple of my buddies and I had Jeeps. So a lot of times when we were in California, we did a lot of desert off-roading, things like that. We'd do some camping. There's great beaches there that right on Camp Pendleton. We'd go to the beach a lot. Loved watching hockey. There was a great hockey team in San Diego, believe it or not, that was not NHL, but it was AHL, and they were a great hockey team. It was great to go see them as well. Concerts, things like that.
Yeah, talk more about the environment in Camp Pendleton, anything like that.
Camp Pendleton's it's a very large base. It's has 17 miles of untouched coastline in California, which is it's prime real estate for sure. Especially being in Southern California, the weather is almost always nice. It was great. I love that base. It was a really cool base to be on, and lots of Marines. And we had San Diego that wasn't too far south of Camp Pendleton, probably about 45 minutes north of San Diego. That's where Camp Pendleton is, and it was good. And in fact, Top Gun was filmed there. Filmed right outside the base in Oceanside, California.
What other places did you travel during your service?
The second half of my time in the Marine Corps was spent at Atlanta, Georgia. it's a naval air base there, and worked on the same aircraft, and that's primarily why I got the orders to Atlanta, because and that's the only other place that the airplane that I worked on was. So I wanted to go where that was, and that's why I ended up in Atlanta for the remainder. But places that I've been during when I was in Okinawa, I also went to the Philippines. I went to Korea as well. And like I said, I spent 3 6-month tours in Okinawa. So in 3 years, 6 months were in California, 6 months were there in Okinawa, and I did that until the squadron closed down. So, and that was in 1993. So I'd only been in for 3 years at that point. Still had 3 years left, and Atlanta was the only place that had that same aircraft.
What was it like traveling as much as you did?
It was good. It was fun. I enjoyed seeing new places, new things to explore in every location that I went to, and it was fun doing it with all of my buddies and friends, and they were seeing stuff for the first time as well.
How has the military changed your life?
I think overall it's made me a better person. You grow naturally anyway as you're moving through life, but I think the Marine Corps helped me become a better man.
What things did it teach you?
The list is endless. A lot of discipline. How to survive on your own. Just general things like that. I mean, I think that it also instilled a lot of patriotism and love for the country.
What was your proudest moment?
The day I graduated from boot camp. After 3 months on Paris Island, I was ready to go. I could tell you the day. It was great. It was great getting out of there. I did revisit Paris Island one time later, and it was fun to go back there because I didn't have to stay there. But yeah, it was great to be graduating and becoming a Marine at that point, because it's never given. It's always earned.
What was boot camp like?
Boot camp was it was hard. It was tough at the beginning, and moving through it, I felt like it got easier and easier as I was going through it. And it didn't seem as bad as I maybe made it out to be in my mind. And at some point, I knew that I was going to be able to graduate and become a Marine. So, looking back on it, was great. It was a lot of fun. I actually equated it to almost like camp. at one point I was like, this isn't even, it's not too far away from being at camp.
How did your time serving affect your personal relationships?
I think it strengthened it. It's great being in the service, and I can't speak for any other service, but the Marine Corps is, like I said, a great brother and sisterhood that is, I think, second to none.
What is one word you would use to describe your service?
One word. Can we come back to that one?
Yeah. What did you miss most about civilian life while you were serving?
I missed family. I did miss the Cape. Growing up here, this is a unique place in itself, and I missed a lot of things about this place, and I think that was about it. Yeah, family and Cape Cod.
Did you face any challenges coming back to civilian life?
There was some adjustments that I needed to make, and a lot of that was just trying to figure out what I was going to do from that day forward, because now I didn't have to report to anybody. I wasn't bound by that, and I think that's a challenge that a lot of people fight when they get out, and some go right back in because they go, oh, I made the wrong decision. I need to go back in. So a lot of my buddies did turn around and go right back in, or they would go to another branch. Some of them would serve in the National Guard after the Marine Corps, or other services, but mainly National Guard.
If you could go back and do it all over again, what would you do differently?
I don't think there's anything that I would do different, because it made me who I am today. So how can we look back on that, and I wouldn't change a thing.
How has your view of war changed as a result of your service?
War is never a good thing, no matter what, whether you're serving or not. And my view of wars really hasn't changed. It's it's. I don't think that it's a necessary thing in all cases, and lately it seems that a lot of wars are just based on money and oil, and I think that's wrong. That's not a reason to send our folks in harm's way, and that has changed even recently in my mind.
What experience from your service affects you most today?
Let's see. I don't know. I think my discipline and my organization on some things in my daily life have changed because of it.
Define a hero.
I think heroes come in many shapes and forms. There's really no way to pinpoint who is a hero. You don't necessarily have to be serving in the armed forces, or there's anybody can be a hero.
What advice would you have for someone going into the service?
I would say that anybody who's thinking about it, definitely try to score well on the entry level test, which is the ASVAB. There's great study guides for that, and try to choose something that you can use after. Because there's many choices out there, and if you can serve doing something that will benefit you when you leave the service, then it's always a better choice to go with something like that. Where if you do something that you cannot use, it's something that will parallel a career after service. It's always something good to look for, and that's about it.
One last question. If you had a choice of what branch of military to go into today, which one?
Marine Corps. No doubt. I would do it all over again, for sure. What was that other question that I said go back to?
It was, what is one word you would use to describe your service?
One word. I don't know. I still don't know a word.
It's all right.
Give me some examples.
Maybe what it meant to you. It could be anything. Like the experience as a whole.
Yeah, the experience as a whole. It was life-changing, I think. That's 2 words, isn't it?
We'll count it.
Close enough.
All
You
right.
can just put a hyphen in it, right?
Yeah, hyphen it, of course.
What else would you like to know? Do you want to look at these pictures that I brought?
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you for that.
Sure.